Your voice didn't sound right.
You need me up? Am I better?
Nah.
Me. In
Say that
this
again.
episode, in
Say
this
it again.
episode, in
No,
this episode, me.
I'm setting you up for the
Word.
for the voice jack.
Figaro, 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 Figaro.
Yo, he did not just say Figaro.
Uh,
Yeah.
All right.
Oh man. Good morning,
yeah.
fellas.
Hey, I
Good
figured, I
morning.
figured we can't have fun doing it, then our audience won't have fun listening. So,
No
All
doubt.
right. In this episode of My Mic Sounds Nice, we discuss the Deion Sanders impact on HBCU football at Jackson State. Jackson State and HBCU football is a big deal once again. Should parents be held criminally liable for their children's acts? The Oxford school shooter's parents are facing 15 years. And violence in hip hop. Does drill music reflect or promote violence? Or should we call it something else?
welcome to another episode of My Mic Sounds Nice, a freestyle conversation about health, relationships, and culture. I am one of your hosts, Timothy Jones, always glad to be in the building.
Welcome to My Mic Sounds Nice. This is Kevin, aka Reggie Jacks from the Bronx. Welcome.
My mic sounds nice. This is Aaron from Long Island, the Rube Rider. What's good, y'all? And we, folks, we came up with our topics prior to learning this information, but we gotta at least extend our condolences to Demarius Thomas, man, the Bronco wide receiver who died yesterday. Pretty awful situation.
Yes, most definitely.
Yeah, it's interesting. When I heard it, say he had died and so he's 33. I didn't even realize he was out of the league. I probably didn't even realize he was just that young because he was just on was it the Jets practice squad or had signed to them at some point within the past couple of years.
He was on the
But
Jets a year ago, maybe.
yeah, and in the first impact when somebody dies that young at this stage of the game, it's like, oh, I hope it's not suicide. Oh, I hope it's not an overdose. And unfortunately, it appeared to be, like they said, of natural causes through some health related problems that he had. So, just
Yeah,
condolences to the family.
he had been
Yeah.
having seizures last year or so.
And also Aaron, especially you actually being a hip hop journalist in that great era. We lost Greg Tate
Oh wow.
this week.
Yeah, facts.
I want to say on December 7th,
Yeah,
he passed, and I had heard the name, but it wasn't registering till seeing all the tributes and making the connection, and him and the Village Voice, and him
Yeah.
really pioneering what we know as journalism and cultural critique from a hip hop and just black lens. So salute to Greg Tate.
No
yeah.
doubt.
I think he was definitely one of the early people in hip hop reading his articles between like him, Havelock Nelson, Bones, and a couple
Bones.
of other people. They were like
Yeah.
just really a big deal that really brought hip hop to the country.
Shout out to
Yeah.
Bones.
Yep.
Yeah. All
All
right,
right.
fellas.
But good catch on that, eh? Putting that out there. So it's as and not to quote Stephen A. Smith, it's fluid.
Yeah.
Right, all right. So today we're going to start at the intersection of sports, hip hop, and HBCUs. We all know Primetime, the hip hop artist that released his debut album on MC Hammer's label in 1994. Well, it turns out he's pretty good at football. The NFL Hall of Famer Deion Sanders, aka Primetime, took over coaching at Jackson State on HBCU in Mississippi 2020. In his first full season, he's won a conference championship, restored glory back to Mississippi without flying the Confederate flag. Will this be the beginning of an HBCU sports resurgence?
Yo, one, I have a friend who is a Jackson State alum, and she went to the homecoming, and she just told me it was something like she had never seen before. The amount of people at the game, just the energy. The fact that I believe 8 of their 11 games were on some ESPN affiliate. And also, I think the impact is far reaching. Grambling just hired Hugh Jackson
No doubt.
as their head coach. So
Yeah.
you're seeing these individuals with NFL experience and different levels of name notoriety come into these schools and coaching. Eddie George is also a coach, I want to say, at Tennessee State.
Yeah, Hugh Jackson was on his staff.
Yeah, so I think it's great for HBCU football. I think it's great for black colleges in general. I hope that the old guard is open to some of the things that Dion is thinking about and wanting to present to mirror what happens with your larger white schools around sports.
I mean, to be honest, I'm really proud of Dion having gone to FSU and nothing but resources and facilities and money and boosters and because make no mistake, HBCU college football is nothing like big time Division 1 FSU football, ACC football. So for him to, as a mature man, understand what's important and saying, "Hey, this is where we can make a real impact and help young brothers. Maybe not get to the NFL, maybe a few, but some man building and maybe build up the program, and then building up the program will build up the school." So it's really important. People always say you need to reach back. This is a real example of somebody saying, "I'm going to go. I've made it. I'm going to extend not one hand, but both hands and pull up my community." So I think it's major.
Yeah, Jackson State is a historic football program, the powerhouse. They actually have four NFL Hall of Famers. They put over 90 players in the NFL over the years. Now, primarily, a lot of that happened before, back when
Yeah.
segregation was still going on, and it was
Yeah.
difficult for players to be able to, when they weren't being recruited by these big schools in the South. But nonetheless, they've created stars, and it's good to almost in some ways to go back to the essence of what an HBCU is. If we think about it, all of these HBCUs, the most people that graduate from college, even though they don't have the majority of people, they seem to graduate at higher percentages, a high number of people. They have a like the majority of the stem cell master's degrees, advanced level degrees seem to come from HBCUs. So there's a certain type of support that exists there on an academic level. And it makes perfect sense that students would want to be able to come to these in order to play sports. And if they're given those same opportunities, that same exposure, it's a wonderful opportunity.
Yeah.
And,
I
and,
mean,
and Aaron, hey, you was talking about Dion's FSU experience in the ACC. Like let's remember, uh, Jackson State is in Mississippi. That's SEC country.
yeah.
So if you are an athlete of merit in that region, you're thinking Mississippi State, Ole Miss to
Yep.
be part of that juggernaut
Yep.
conference. And now, if Prime is able to build Jackson State as a viable option where there's going to be that exposure, and then over time resources. Now it may never be comparable as what you were saying. Hey, we get that, but Michael Strahan supporting the university by giving suits and other things like that. Success is going to garner more attention and is going to bring more support over time. So for him to do what he's doing in that part of the country is just historic on another.
Yeah. I don't know if you guys have ever seen ESPN's excellent 150-year college football documentary, and they cover so many topics of the 150 years. And one of the things they do cover is black colleges, and when there was segregation, you essentially had all the greats going to these black schools, and coming out of a black school, getting to the pros was the norm. That was by uh, only having one opportunity, or I don't want to say lack of opportunity because it was opportunity, but lack of a national white powerhouse university weren't open to our black players. If our players now can choose to go to um, historically black colleges because the end result is the same, it will help those universities because it is clear that the major powerhouse schools benefit from football. There's a reason these schools spend millions of dollars and upgrade their facilities because there is a financial return from alumni, from prestige. Uh, it just helps the university in so many ways. So if we don't even need Tim to be the top majors, but if I if I'm a B level recruit and I go to Jackson State and I feel like I'm going to get coached really well, or that I'm particularly in the secondary and I'm going to learn from the greatest cornerback to ever live, all I care about is the end result. If I get to the pros, I get to the pros. Now, the only dark secret is the money type of stuff. And, that big boosters are paying these kids under the table. But ultimately, if kids can make money off their own image and likeness, that may go away at some point also. So hopefully the Strahans and those type of people, I didn't even know he was helping out. Hopefully more of that continues. But the more attention that black colleges are getting, like we talked about 2 months ago, this is just another avenue that can expand these schools. And I would even venture to say basketball is probably even an easier sport to conquer than football. So if we can do this in football, we should be able to really be able to do it in basketball because you don't need the money. You only need 15 guys or 12 guys, whatever college allows, 12 scholarships. It's a lot easier to do for a university to manage improving their basketball program. So hopefully what Dion has started has tentacles and it
Yep.
goes beyond football.
I think the key to success is what you talked about, the exposure. And while they don't have the facilities, they're not going to have the type of equipment, workout, and all that type. But you've got
For now.
Deion's brain. You have Deion's brain. Well, you're not going to match up to Alabama. You're not going to match up to Oregon. Like there's certain places where you're just not going to match up to. But you've got enough equipment. You've got the ability. What's most important is the exposure. There's a reason why a bunch of NFL coaches are sons of coaches because they've been exposed to schemes, they've been exposed to programs, they've been exposed to all these different things. And the fact that you have these people with professional experience that have done it on a professional level, and that's what many of these players aspire to. They're giving them exposure to these schemes, these things, and that's what really helps you make it into the NFL because it's a thing. Unfortunately, us as Howard University grads, football has never really been our thing. My uncle who played at Fayetteville in the '50s, and actually played a year in the pros. He used to say, like, he used to love to come to Howard. They used to circle Howard, like, oh yeah, we're gonna see all the women, but we circled out. It's like that's a win, and we get to see women. But yeah.
But Kev, also, these schools don't need to be as good as Alabama or these SEC schools. Most guys in those Power Five conferences, when they go to the pros, the facilities are less than their university. So
No, I'm not saying they have to be as good. They have to be
yeah,
exposed to the schemes.
yeah, yes, absolutely. But
Yeah.
I do think that black colleges can improve their facilities to be first class without needing a building, the size of
Yeah.
a football field like some of these schools have.
So because
That's all
here's
I
the
meant.
thing, certain high you shouldn't be playing in at your high school and then go do a college visit and the conditions are lower than your high school
Yeah.
because depending on certain states,
Yep.
that where high school is king, their facilities are mirroring small colleges. So you don't want to go from the 11th grade weight room and to something that's subpar. But Kev, you made the comment about, and I know we're about to wrap this up. You made the comment about the connection family, like also the fact that Deion Sanders' son, who is freshman, I think freshman player of the year in the
Yeah.
SWAT, though being able to follow your dad and be coached in that's dope. I think that's amazing, an amazing experience to have where there was no drop off from that. So that's cool.
Does anybody know? Did he have top university offers? His son.
Yeah, he was off. He had signed someplace else, and then when Dion took the position,
Oh,
he
okay.
moved to Jackson
He
State. I
he
can't.
decommitted. I forgot what school it was, but he was being watched in high school. Like I want to say he was on that ESPN top list.
Okay. I
So
mean,
it wasn't the only place he could get on is with his dad.
yeah, yeah,
So I understand your question, and that's real.
yeah, yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
it just speaks to if he could have gone somewhere else and he came with his father, it's even a greater. It's now Dion's putting his money where his mouth is. He's doing it with his own son.
yeah,
It's,
yeah,
it's even greater.
It's a
yeah.
greater commitment. Yeah.
I mean, if you're sitting in somebody's living room and you're able to tell that mother or father to trust me with your child, and
I
by the
sent my
way,
son here. Yeah.
here's Junior. You know.
Yeah. Well, would you send your son here? Why wouldn't you send? I send my son to Georgia. Well, actually, my son is the starting safety. Yes.
Yeah,
He's been starting
and
since he's a freshman or whatever
and, and,
position he
and
plays.
freshman SWAC player of the year. You've seen him
Yeah.
on television. You know how we get down. So
Real quick, I was just thinking you talked about HBCU facilities. So we know at Howard, I stayed in the athletes dorm. That was 100 years ago. That was probably the worst dorm in the whole campus.
salute the Cook Hall.
Yes. Cook with that.
Yeah, yeah, that's right. That's right. Lufi got Division I athletes. We got Reggie Jacks.
No doubt.
Although we could never visit him in his dorm, but that's another joke.
Oh man! All right. Speaking of school, so school shootings, they have a typical routine. A person shoots up a school, the public becomes outraged. People offer their thoughts and prayers, and then we look to blame people to see who missed signs and signs of the threat, and we wonder how come they never saw this coming. Well, after the latest shooting in Oxford, Michigan, that killed 4 students, there's a plot twist. Parents are being charged. How uncommon is this? Since 1999, they've been able to source where the weapon came from in 114 different cases. 87 times those weapons came from family and friends.
Yeah.
Only 5 people have ever been criminally charged, and there are 3 cases that are currently pending. What are your thoughts about the shooting and the prosecution?
I mean, I think America has a history of, in all situations, whether it's political, government uh, accidents, we as a nation have the need to blame. We have the need to hold people accountable, and sometimes you have a killer and he'll do something and then he'll die in the commission of his crime or commit suicide, and then they go after the family members. It's like we have to have our pound of flesh in this country, and I think this is another example. If anyone had a responsibility in a situation, it's the school. The school had the student. I'm reading all these articles and see on television. Oh, the parents let him stay in school. No, the school didn't send him home. I've never known it presented as a choice in the past. I've never known a parent to go up to the school and say, you know what? Yeah, I want him suspended. No, the school decides. The school let him stay.
Well, to that point, you haven't experienced it because I'm gonna say this with a high level of confidence. You've been black all your life, and I'm saying that to say,
There's no options.
like, let's really be real, and if it's controversial, so what? If that young man's name was Tyrone, and that school had found the drawings of a gun with a bullet, like talking about people getting killed and the like, first of all, they would have sent Tyrone home before the parents. Okay, like I mean, so that was the part that was just baffling. Number one, Kev, I love the stats that you shared about the number of charges being so small, but the number of guns that were led to being in the home. In this instance, with the parents being charged, I think from the prosecution standpoint, their feeling is that this is negligence on an egregious level. That fact that they bought the gun for the son and the mom was texting the
Yeah.
son like not to get caught next time, looking for ammunition. So there's already a parent child dynamic that was off,
Yeah, they're bad parents. But
absent of the gun. But I'm not mitigating your point about the search for flesh, but this
no,
is
no, no,
it'll be
no. They're
interesting.
bad parents, and I think that needs to be said. That I mean, they don't make wise decisions. They ran when they're not people who are making wise decisions.
Yeah.
Where were you going? Where were you running to? When you found out you were going to be arrested. So no, I think that's a fair point, Tim, and it needs to be said. They didn't make wise decisions. The question is that criminality.
I, I'm gonna take it from obviously the shooting is awful. Yes, they're bad parents. I don't think they should be charged, and I'll dig into that a little later on. But I'm gonna start off with the school. Having worked in a school, having been the person that's dealt with searching students, that suspended students, that has found guns on kids,
Has been an acting dean.
yeah, that for years, I can't imagine as a school finding this from this kid, knowing the situation, and not searching him. One, I can't imagine. Like I've had parents say, I'd say, "Hey, you need to take your child home." "Oh no, I don't want to take my child home." And hey, this is not up for debate. You're going to have to take this kid home, or I'm going to do this. And then they'll be like, "Okay, I'll take the kid home." If they said he had to get he needed to get some counseling within 48 hours, that tells me that you've already raised the bar. I don't understand how you don't search it. I had a kid that one day I was walking out the building and a teacher says to me, and this is not a bad kid at all, and she says, "On my birthday, I'm going to come and I'm going to shoot you." Says this to the math teacher. The math teacher tells me we're walking out the door and we're kind of laughing about it. And as I'm getting down the hallway, I was like, "Hold up. Let me go check the records real quick." And I was like, "Oh, her birthday's next week. Yeah, we might have a problem." So she comes in the next day. I pull her aside and I search her, call her family, the whole thing, just because. Why take the chance? Now, also, you come across all types of things that children write, that they say, dangerous and all these things. So I'm not saying what sounds alarming to the public
It's not alarming.
is not necessarily alarming. Somebody searching for ammunition after they just received a gift is not that alarming.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, if it wasn't a gun and you had a PlayStation and you were looking for PlayStation games afterwards,
Yeah,
anybody would consider that normal.
right.
Now,
Yeah,
I like what you're saying though, Kevin, about the school doing their due diligence. You know, Michelle, my wife, is a teacher, as we know, and one thing she doesn't play is kids will be joking, "Oh, I'm gonna hurt myself," or "I'm gonna kill myself," or anything where they say anything about self harm. She don't play. You're going to speak to someone because I need to make sure that that joke isn't serious. That type of stuff is real and important.
Aaron, you just touched on a point that I have not heard, but I mean, I've spent 20 plus years running after school programs, and we're all mandatory reporters.
Yeah,
And so that teacher finding that note, it's like, okay, you're reporting it to your authorities, but at some point, whether it's Child Protective Services, like family, like someone beyond the school should have been reported to. And to your point, Kev, like I know in my program, if I was to tell a parent they have to show me that their child is getting counseling in 48 hours. That means you're not allowed in the facility until that
Until,
time.
yeah,
Like if I
Yeah.
if the bar is raised to the point that I'm giving you a timeline, you don't get to go back to class. That
yeah,
means in the next 2 days, you need to let me know. And then based upon feedback from that counselor, are they suited? Because especially now with hybrid learning, yo, the work is in Google Classroom. So there's no concern about how you keep up with your work. How we say at the club, you ain't got to go home,
but
but
you,
you gonna
yeah,
get out of here.
yeah,
So, mom and dad, if you don't want to take them, trust and believe all three of y'all are leaving this building.
yeah. No,
I, yeah.
go ahead, Kev.
I think that the issue that I have around charging the police, right? I mean, charging the parents is they didn't, because of the laws there, they don't have a duty to lock up the device. So it
Exactly.
doesn't necessarily have to be locked up. Um, if I gave him the gun and let him shoot it at the range, and even if I'm holding the gun, but they know it's his gun, like that's not a crime. So what we're doing is we know morally we're offended by this,
Yeah,
and morally things are just wrong, and we're acting on morals to,
in a
you know,
legal space.
yeah, we're using it, and I don't want that world. I want the world. I want the laws to actually protect us. I don't want somebody to have to be moral and say, hey, well, you know what, this is wrong, so now I'm going to charge these parents because I'm sick and tired of this. Because that same flexibility that they have to charge is the same
Hmm.
flexibility that you get in Georgia with Ahmaud Arbery, where they don't charge. That's not what we need.
Yeah,
We need the laws
great
to
point.
match what we need, and then like that, and that will be justice. What we don't.
And also, that's a really good point, Kev. On the flip side, because I'm sure no one was thinking about the opposite. But on top of that, we also have to be a society that says, you know what? Sometimes bad things happen, and it was just a tragedy, and no one's at fault. The fact that we need to blame, like Benghazi, we have to blame somebody in Benghazi. Somebody had to do something wrong. Now there might be lapses, there might be things to learn from a situation, but sometimes things just occur that you can't account for, and you just gotta chalk it up and say that's part of life. But we really have that inability in America to do that, and it has bad outcomes. It has really bad outcomes because we go looking for pounds of flesh, and a lot of times innocent people get hurt.
Yeah, but we don't go back far enough. We want to look in the most recent history of what happened in the past when they purchased the gun and all these other things. But I'm sure if you did a deep dive, this young man has been exhibiting signs that parents may have overlooked, that educators and other people involved in his life may have overlooked,
Yeah,
and it's a real problem. Like these kids, he have mental issues. I feel a certain type of way where him being charged as an adult. He's not an adult. He's a kid, and we know he had the
he said, "I can't. I
ill-informed,
want the voices to stop."
right, ill-informed in all of these things, and but I go back and forth because it's like, hey, well, they charge black people automatically, or they charge big young boys of color all the time as men. They treat them as men, and that's in the back of my head. But I'm like, no, I want it to be this. I want it to be just. I don't
Yeah,
want it to be the same. But
yeah,
that's my
and
own
it,
little inner fight.
And also, I mean, most importantly, our hearts go out to the families that
yeah,
lost students, injuries, and just the mental anguish of the students in the building.
yeah,
Like
yeah,
how you gonna respond the next time you hear a pop? Will you be able to go back into the building? Are you able to even sleep? Those things that are there, and Kev, I feel you, and I do believe that we are on that, as Michelle Obama said, taking that high road where, like, I don't want you to experience injustice and then for us to say that we're even. We want a
yeah,
system that is just.
Right.
And
But I don't like it. And so in
No,
the
no.
meantime, sometimes I want my pound of flesh too.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean,
Yeah. I mean, you're human, but
without a doubt. But then, I mean, because then people attach that to closure. That in order for me to get, somebody has to pay for the actions that they committed. Now, at some point, there is something about precedents, whether the parents end up being convicted of these charges. If this incident makes one set of parents think a little differently about how they engage their children with firearms and pay attention, I don't think that's a bad thing. But we all come from environments and have worked and visited schools and environments where there's metal detectors at the door. Searching, sadly enough, searching is a norm. Just as you mentioned, Kev. So I think it's hard for us to understand, because you have this huge campus where you're like, what? There's no metal detectors? What? People don't normally search? Like, you're sitting there having this meeting and nobody grabbed the bag? Like, because we've been conditioned, and this ties into our next topic, to have those things in place just for the safety and sanctity of all involved.
I want to bring up, because when I was thinking about this and going back to Sandy Hook for a minute, I looked at this President Obama quote right after Sandy Hook, where they killed the 26 people in Connecticut. And he said, we're going to have to come together and take meaningful action to prevent more tragedies like this, regardless of the politics. 20 children that were 6 and 7 years old were killed at this point in time. If America cannot come together to act then, I do not see a path where we will come together and act on it.
No, it's true. I was actually shocked to also learn that there hadn't been a school shooting since Parkland in Florida. Like, you hear about how many school shootings there are and how often they occur. I was like, wow, that's 2018. I hate to say it, that's pretty good. Now, for most countries, that would be horrid.
But having been in a state, where things happen and laws quickly change, and then you see certain heightened awareness around it, that's probably what happened. For instance, when I was at one point, a young kid, an autistic student, walked out of a school in the Bronx, walked right out the front door, and wound up, disappeared, and he had died. They found him in the river, like after searching.
I remember
for like a
that
week.
story.
Right, searching for like a week or so.
Yeah.
Every single school in New York City suddenly had alarms on their doors, where you could not open up. You had to use the main entrance, and if you walked out that, the alarm would go off, and security or somebody would report to the door to check to see.
So they had them on video leaving the school.
So they put a whole bunch of protocols in place. So I'm not surprised to see that if a state was something that major happened, I'm sure there was all types of things that were implemented to try to prevent or mitigate something like that happening in the future.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully it's working.
But we will be watching and see how things play out with the parents, as well as these lawsuits that are being filed. I think the first one was filed to the school. I definitely feel that there's some negligence on the school. I agree,
Absolutely.
that sometimes ad nauseum we try to find that pound of flesh. I think the school should be held accountable.
Oh, no,
even
absolutely.
even if it results in just changing of policies.
No, absolutely.
It definitely feels like there was some steps that.
No,
were
don't
not
get me wrong.
taken. I'm not saying
Yeah.
that you. I
They
just was.
definitely were wrong. It's just that prosecutors know that they're not going to be able to put an institution behind bars.
Yeah.
So I can't put parents behind bars. So let me go after the parents.
Yeah. No.
If they could put the principal behind bars, they believe me, they'd be charging the principal. So that's what I don't like.
But I'm saying when you have the flexibility to make these types of decisions, it could happen. Later on, they could be like, "Yeah, you know what? He was to blame."
Yeah, but
wasn't
no, absolutely. But also, the kid, you could in his writings, he's talking about, hearing stuff and wanting sound to stop. This is not someone making something up. He's 15. He doesn't know any better. This is a disturbed child. So the travesty of him even being tried as an adult speaks to me as a overzealous prosecutor. Going, let me go after the parents. Let me go after the kids. You know.
Yeah, but prosecutor's elected position, and if you
Yep.
don't charge him as an adult,
Politics.
you're not you're not coming back.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
All right,
So,
Joe.
I think of myself as a student of the game, as all of us do. The imagery of violence and murder has been a staple of hip hop since Lightning Rod's Hustlers Convention, released in 1973. As the genre grew into a multi-million dollar industry, hip hop was synonymous with show business. Flash forward to 2010s, and where we have the convergence of drill music, a type of hip hop, a genre of hip hop, with social media, which glorifies kind of disrespect. Hip hop has changed. People out here committing crimes, making songs about their crimes, sending messages to ops, and it seems to be this local thing that's now becoming growing nationally. Is this good or bad for hip hop? Well, I shouldn't even say it was good or bad for hip hop. What are your thoughts about drill music and where we are today with that genre?
I was thinking how how the culture continues to evolve. Like you said, we were students of the game, and I remember probably the first subgenre coined was probably gangster rap. You had songs that would cover different things, and then you had like, oh, they're conscious artists or this, that, and the other. But you fast forward now where you have these sub genres that you can even start to ask, like, is this still holding on to those tenets of hip hop? And I know we're going to, pun intended, drill deeper into it, but I just wanted to bring that out because you have drill music, and that's part of hip hop, and then you have emo rap that is
Yeah.
hip hop, but it's also emo music. So we're in a space and time now where this culture has grown, where you have these sub genres, but at some point, is it that? And I'm not saying that to dismiss the participants, but since you said started off being students of the game, I just wanted to speak to that first, and then, as I said, pun intended, now we can drill more into what's happening in those scenes.
Yeah. I mean, we've always in hip hop had, or not always, but by the mid to late 80s, we begun to have people talking about where they were from in their music. And the difference was, even though people did that, the music was for everybody. So I got my ghetto tour of what Compton was like, and or I could imagine what Houston was like. And I was invited to be a part of that. Wow, gangs. I didn't know nothing about gangs. Bloods and Crips. First time I ever heard that stuff was in rap music. This is the first time music is made from a place, and the music is almost made only for the people that are in that place. It's like, it's almost like we're secondary to the situation because they're talking about very specific actions and murders and beefs that only a few hundred people could really understand the first time they heard it. We could all learn from it later on, but it's such a subculture. It's down to blocks and neighborhoods, and it's so unique that I don't know if it's healthy for the overall art form because of the amount of violence and the fact that it's rappers rapping about the street and staying in the street at the same time.
I think you make an excellent point about that last thing you said about them staying in the street at the same time. Back in the day, and we remember we've been around tons of artists and executives, and we know that the old thing used to be like rappers want to be gangsters and gangsters want to be rappers. And I think they've kind of found a way to merge the two. Like back in the day when you had certain people that were criminals in hip hop that didn't necessarily push their criminality. Like Dreads from Black Sheep. Nobody would have thought of him being spending 11 months on Rikers Island.
Yeah.
But you know,
Yeah.
but that's who he was. But he never really talks about those things. Uh, the concern, like with kind of hip hop today, is that there was a bunch of there was a time where they were where people were being convicted for crimes because they had people would find their rap book where they wrote their lyrics down and then charged them for crimes. Like, let's say they might be caught doing a robbery and they writing these rhymes about robbing and all this other stuff. Not necessarily the crimes they committed, just telling some story. And then they were using that to help convict people. Like, and they were self-snitching. Recently, New Jersey just passed a law where they went against that, where they're saying, okay, we're no longer going to use rap lyrics or lyrics of something creative in order to convict people. New York, just 2-3 weeks ago, the politicians just introduced a law, or they're talking about introducing a law to stop self-snitching. I feel like those laws, that's not going to happen as they become more aware of what's going on, aware of them rapping about these particular murders in this disrespectful way, and it's just, it's
We
bad.
thought that was ridiculous before, and now if you could actually pull out a rap book and you might find a blueprint to a murder and who did it, and that's scary.
Yeah, and I mean, in their songs, as we were looking for the things in Jacksonville, they literally admitting to crimes and getting arrested for crimes.
Yeah, and to your point, it's almost like the home movie that was really just for the people who were in the clip or who are related to those individuals now get commercialized as product, but then there's really, really fine print. And that really, really fine print is that's like, yo, what's being presented as entertainment for a small set of people represents trauma, pain, real life.
Yeah.
And if you are kind of bobbing your head and get caught in the wrong situation, you now get treated as an accomplice. You may get viewed as an op. And so the rules of engagement have changed. You made a really excellent point about when we were coming up, you had the geographical announcements. Like I remember our summer 89, like yo, we were in DC bumping straight out of Compton. None of us had a curl. None of us had really been to Cali yet. And when you talking about gangs, like yo, I remember colors. I
Yeah.
remember it's like, yo, what is this? Like, and then later on learning what that represented, but it was more I'm letting you know what's going on, and then the trap coming out of the South and the like. Whereas in this situation, it's like the block. Like I'm telling you what happened on 79th and 3rd.
Yeah.
And and
Yeah.
and the names have not been changed to to
To
save
protect them.
to protect the. I was trying to remember that tagline, like the
Yeah.
names were changed to protect
The
those who
innocent.
were
Yeah.
involved, the innocent. Like that hasn't been done. And then to some it may be an oxymoron where they talk about there's ethics amongst thieves. Like there were just certain lines that were not crossed, but
Yeah.
now people are making videos at people's graves, and so it almost is I kill you and then I'm going to continue to disrespect, and so then those individuals who were part of that, it's like how do you stop it? And then when you blow up and you get the fame, and this is what brought you fame, so
Yeah.
now I got to continue to carry the guns. I got to continue in this cycle because
And you can't
who
leave
am
the
I
neighborhood.
apart from this? Yeah.
And you can't leave the neighborhood on top of your point too.
What is that 70s song? I'm a victim of the very song I sing.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, you gotta. Some of these rappers have histories in the street. They make their song, but they might have murdered someone 2 years before, or gotten a shootout, or hurt somebody, or beat somebody up. Now they're in the music, but they can't. Even though they've got money and they got a stack like them on the telephone, where they could obviously go rent a better home or live somewhere else, they're still on 79th and 3rd. They're still there. They're still going to the same McDonald's. And the truth of the matter is, you cannot do that in the hood where there's really a problem. One, you can't have money in people's faces that don't have money, because that makes you a target in any generation. Two, you can't be flaunting in front of people you consider ops, because you become a target. But now you can't leave your boys, so it's like a death trap, which really scares me. And then I'm concerned that the people looking from afar, the larger society, police, music critics, will not differentiate this very unique subculture in hip hop from all of hip hop. So the headline gonna say rapper dies.
I mean, can like I know we were talking about it, and we haven't really talked about like certain artists that would consider kind of drill music or just kind of describe drill a little bit. So like people like Pop Smoke, like Chief Keef, Big Drill kind of really started in Chicago, and they got yeah,
Yeah.
they got a lot of love for starting it.
Lil
And
Durk.
Lil Durk, yeah, Pac Man, this dude from Chicago that was shot and killed. Yeah, it's a drill, and it was kind of like the sound of the gun or whatever. So they enjoyed what I don't even know how to best describe drill music. High energy, talking about the things that you've done, your opposition, how nice you are, and it's not really focused on lyrical skill. It's kind of a outgrowth of trap music.
It's honestly, some of these guys sound like the demos we listened to in the '90s that we've like, yo, I'm not signing that guy. He can't even stay on beat.
Yeah.
So
And the problem with it to me is that it's not really about the art form of rapping. It's not about artistry. It's not about creativity. It's about how I can send my message along with a nice beat and be disrespectful with it.
you
Yeah,
might not have the hottest cat in the neighborhood. If you're from 79th and Third and it's 25 of y'all, and you got a rapper, the guy might not be that skilled. So
hold up.
every
Hold up. 79th and third was just made up for this
no,
discussion.
exactly.
No. I'm
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm being facetious, but
yeah,
not
yeah,
because
yeah,
somebody may be like, "Yo, wait a second, are they talking about my block?"
yeah, yeah,
No.
yeah. No, no.
we're not talking
Go
about your
ahead.
block. We're definitely not
But
talking about
like
Manhattan.
these are small areas and hoods, and you know uh you have a small pool to draw talent from. So the hottest guy in your crew might not be that hot. I mean, what's that song where the guy's like 1, 2, 3, 4? Who's that knocking at my door? 5, 6, 7. Like, I mean, this is really what people are doing, man. Like, I mean, it's
But
you know,
the hip hop police, which is the thing that kind of started in New York, where they just kind of walk around and follow rappers, and they're still doing it now. It's kind of a mixture of gang intel and all of these other things. And I don't know if people really realize it, And it happened to me when I was in Harlem. Police would come to me. And this is years ago, 10, 15 years ago, and they said like, "Hey, we working on our gang database. Who do you think is in a gang?"
oh wow,
And and that was a regular thing, and they'd ask for names and things. I'm like, I ain't telling you nothing. I don't know nothing. I don't And these are officers that I would have to work with from time to time, but I'm not like. So they're following these things. I've seen the video shoots. I've walked around Harlem, and I've seen gangs of kids all around with their nice cars. Cars too nice for the age that they are, and cameras around. It's like, oh, they shooting one of them videos. So I've seen it during the summer. I've seen it around. I don't know. I'm not intimately involved in what's going on in Harlem, like to that extent. Thankfully, I'm out of that game to that extent. But it's a danger.
It's a thing where there was a season where the music was the source of the competition that borderline beef. Like we could go back
yeah.
to the Bridge and South Bronx. Like the music was the catalyst. You fast forward, now there are factions in neighborhoods that are really at war with each other and then the music is amplifying a war that
Yeah,
was already
an
there.
existing war. Yep.
And that's a difference. And then when you add into this that this really came from the onset of what they would say the SoundCloud era, where you could just put out your own music without any of the other systems that were in place when music was coming up, where it's like, oh, there's certain artistic aesthetics that has to be met.
No
I get an
curation, no
account.
A&R.
Yeah, we're just doing it, and
Yeah.
then it becomes popular with social media. So now there's money in this. There's
Yeah.
millions in this, and then you have a couple who are nice enough to break through. And so now you have the industry, which is totally about profit. They could care less until the blood hits their doorstep or the blood falls on their balance sheet or their income statement. Until that time, they don't care what's the truth behind this creativity. If I can pull one or two of them, give them a national tour, make money off of them, put them in high cars and this, that, and the other, it's part of the game. And so I think
If I
for
can get
us,
a Pop Smoke who's really talented,
yes. And
I'm
if yeah,
good.
so if I
But you know, but Pop Smoke never even had a chance to perform in New York because the hip hop police would not let him. He was supposed to perform at, I don't know, was it Governor's Ball or Rolling Loud? And the police sent the list, was like, yo, these like 3 or 4 performers cannot get on the stage. Bobby Schmurder. Bobby Schmurder was signed. He was kind of doing this thing. They rolled that whole thing up into a RICO. I don't even think he was in jail before he even had an album out.
Oh
yeah,
yeah,
so,
yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, and then you think so
But
this
they rhymed
happened.
about some of the murders. There was some people that were murdered. They had rhymes about that some of the people wound up getting arrested for and going to jail for.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
mean, and Bobby
and
Smurda had uh, integrity also, because the years he took more years so that him and his friend um, could go to
He
jail.
didn't
Like,
put all the weight on his friend to do more
yeah,
time.
like they were gonna give it like him like 5 years and his friend like 10, and Bobby Smurda was, these numbers might be off, but this is the scenario. Bobby Smurda was like, you know what, give us both 7, and so him and his friend got the same amount of years. And Bobby Smurda actually took more time to get his friend less time. That's how deep and connected he is in that
yeah.
situation.
And so we're at a point of time where you're always concerned. I mean, first of all, these are tragic situations that are happening, and people are making songs, and
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 their
this is this
kids.
and this is and this is real life, and they're so young.
Yep.
And but then there's adults around them that are impacted as well, and so once again,
Speak
we're
on it,
all
Tim.
we're all attached in dealing with young people in schools and adults, and so it just becomes a lens that people start to judge a generation by or judge a city by, and then that becomes hugely problematic because you also still have the presence of studio gangsters. When gangster rap was really hitting and people were trying to present that image, but you're able to see through it. But now it almost feels like you could try to play this role and literally you're putting your life at risk. And so there's just a lot of work that we have to do. We can't walk away from them. That's my thing. My thing is, for us as men, for us who claim to identify with hip hop, things may be bad in certain pockets, but we can't walk away. There's different roles that we can play, but I just don't want to be dismissive. And because if you start to say like, "Yo, that's not hip hop," you're kind of separating and you're leaving them to their wows. And we have to find ways to just intervene. And we're all not called to do the same thing. Like Kev, there's some things that you've said that you've done. I'm thankful that I've never had to hand do, but if there's students that you're talking to, there's always something that we can do that can help. And I don't want anybody to think that what their role they're playing is minuscule, because
Yeah.
you could talk to one who could talk to one, and so on. But this is definitely a real situation that is much bigger than the music, and I think we want our community to understand that.
This is really problematic where because 50 Cent is probably the like Dr. Dre said recently, when you think of gangster rap, you know 50 Cent should be in a dictionary. 50 Cent, when he got success, was able to walk away from Southside Jamaica, Queens. Nas got to leave. Mobb Deep got to go. Queensbridge didn't keep them. They got to go elsewhere. And unfortunately, when you have money and fame and the trappings that it brings, and then you add youth on top of that, you already put yourself in a dangerous situation, a la Nipsey Hussle. Like, you really, unfortunately, cannot stay in the community when you have that type of situation. Now, you can work with the community, you could be supportive, you can go back there every 5 seconds doing stuff for the community. But your situation has changed. Your situation is different. And it's almost insulting because most people are there not by choice. So while you think you're doing something cool by I'm going to stay in this situation, that's not really what people need. People need opportunity and change. And I say all that to say, being around the same situation that you were in when you were at your worst will just get you killed or other people killed or get you into dangerous, violent situations. Then on top of that, you add drill music and that whole the way things are set up. I'm very concerned. I'm very concerned about people dying. I mean, this spins out of control. I'm afraid it will hurt hip hop as a genre overall. And I think that Tim makes a great point about reaching these young men. But to be quite honest, I don't know how, because after you murder somebody and you run around with a T-shirt insulting someone even in death, that is something that you, throughout the history of humanity, you very rarely see. There's always been respect for the dead in wars and everything else, and that speaks to how psychopathic the situation is. That even the dead can't get respect or be left alone. You know, so I'm concerned. I don't know how to reach that situation.
I'm gonna lay out a scenario of why it's easy for them to stay, and it's easier for them to stay within the neighborhood. I get my fame, I get my thing by accumulating things, having a certain reputation, showing my wealth in cars, jewelry, stacks, or whatever. And and I've got kids. I've got people I've told, like, yo, get this off of Instagram. Like, what are you doing? Like, you walking around here with a stack, like it's your phone, or you rocking these all super expensive cars. Like, you're just gonna bring the heat on yourself. But you're doing that, you're getting fame, and you're treated like a superstar within your own little community. If you go someplace else, everything that built you, everything that made you, you're not getting. They're not trying to get away. It's not like they have other skills with it. It's not like I'm Jay-Z, like, I got this money, I got these other skills that I'm using, I'm just trying to raise up. That's as far as they could see. And so there's no reason, even if they left, they're not getting what they need. So even if they move someplace else, they're going to continue to come back to the block. They're going to continue to.
But that's even safer. I'm not even saying change your friends, but just if you live in Brooklyn, if you just move to New Jersey and come back to Brooklyn, even that act is safer.
And
I
they
think what Kev is saying, like, there is, and it may be twisted in some instances, but there is a comfortability and a loyalty,
Absolutely,
10 toes down to that soil.
But that had existed before drill.
No. Yes, but almost. But at this point, I think over time, some things become extreme, and so it's not that that sense of loyalty and commitment to your hood is new. Anybody that thinks that is new is wrong. It's just the levels of extremes of how you take that, and
True.
this is where I feel comfortable. Like to go to New Jersey, it feels weird. Like where's the corner store? And we've heard people give those accounts in the past, but it's this feeling of I only feel safe when I'm around my crew, when I'm right here
Take them
on
to
the
Jersey.
block.
Take them
You,
to
you,
Jersey.
you know,
Take
but
them to
but
Jersey.
but
Like,
then also but you think about it. Here's the thing. Before, like now you go to Jersey, you go to the wrong part of Jersey, is you got gangs there and all of this other stuff. I think there
I
has
got
to
this from
be.
Nori, man. Nori said you gotta move. You
Yo,
know,
Yeah.
yo,
no,
yo,
you
A.
got Nori said, I ain't a rapper. I ain't lived it.
No,
Nori's like, you cannot stay in the same. Now, drill is different because part of your fame is built upon you being in your neighborhood and representing all of that situation. So it makes it even harder to leave. I'm just saying, for life preservation, you cannot stay in the same place that you were in when you
Uh,
have fame
uh,
and
Hey,
uh,
money.
hey,
uh,
you
That's all
talking
I'm
just
saying.
you talking about
yeah.
fame and money, but that's not. They don't necessarily. They've got money in some ways. The fame is different. It's a hood fame. It's like Juice when Latifah was like, oh, it's like you DJ. He's like, yeah, I DJ local party. He's like, oh, you were local. Like I've seen a dude. I've seen somebody commit a crime that was on national news. Right, it was on national TV. They showed this crime all around trying to identify the people that committed this crime. And I knew one of the people that committed that crime. That person never left that block. That person, I would
And
see
that's
that
common.
person.
That's commonplace.
I,
That's
I would
common.
see that same person on the same block where the police are still looking for this person. And I say that to say it's not in their nature to move because this is what they know. This is their
I,
comfort level. This is
I'm not
I, I,
debating.
I
I'm
think I
not
think
debating that,
yeah, I
bro.
was
I'm
say
saying you gotta
I
go. That's all I'm
hold it.
saying.
I
I
believe,
agree with all of
But
those
that, but
things,
that's making good decisions. If they was making good decisions, they wouldn't have made. They
no.
wouldn't
bro.
make the
Here's
50
the
decisions.
Cent.
thing.
All I'm saying is 50 Cent left. Nori left. Nas left.
But
Tragedy left. I could go on and
We're
but
on
talking
and
hey,
on
different
and
money,
on and
different
on.
level.
hey, hey.
But
But
bro,
also,
if you got a stack like this where I can make a telephone, I can go rent an apartment and not be on 79th and 3rd. Or, Kevin, I'm not saying I don't understand. What I'm saying is that when you stay, unfortunately, what happened in Nipsey Hussle happens because you are no longer, and it's disrespectful to the people that are struggling that have nothing. You become a opportunity for them because they don't have your money. They're jealous of your fame. You're moving in a way that they can't move in, and you become a target. That is just a fact in the hood.
You
And
speaking for somebody with expectations of a long life and some other
I'm
things.
speaking for facts. I'm not talking about anybody and what they think.
but
I'm just saying the
I know.
facts of the matter are if you want to make sure you can be alive and stay healthy, you got to go. Now, I'm not saying that people don't go. I'm not saying that there aren't people don't feel comfortable and they don't want to go. There's a million reasons why people stay. I'm not arguing against any of that. My I'm just saying a very simple thing. If you want to live, you can't stay in the hood that you were in when your circumstances dramatically change and the next man is worried about how I'm gonna feed my sister dinner tonight and my mother is on strung out on drugs and I got to put on the same pair of pants today that I had on for the last 2 days and you walking around and you got even 10 bands on you, you are insulting to that person and you put yourself in danger. That's all.
so, no, I
I'm not
agree.
denying that.
It's not a disagreement. I just and the list of names that you name, at some point there probably is a different mindset for the individual who is the true aspiring hip hop artist
Very true.
versus the rapper who is a part of this scene in the
Yes.
remember it was in the midst of the war before, and so their approach
It's
and what
different.
they're even looking to get out of the art is different than the legacy of individuals that Nori was speaking about. Because I would even say Nip was a hip hop artist. Yeah, representing his set, his crew, and the whole nine. So I just think that
Yeah,
there are
he's not a drug dude. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. So I just think there are societal issues that need to be addressed, because by the time we hear it on a record, in a lot of instances it's too late.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So when I'm speaking about the role that we have to play, it has to be before the record is made, because once the record is made and heard by millions, I
Yeah.
never want to say that there's no redemption, there's no turning back, but that is way more difficult than
Yes. Because
the
you got a permanent thing.
than the interceding that could take place before
Absolutely.
the record is made. So
Absolutely.
I just wanted
Absolutely.
to say that.
No, absolutely. And just to clarify, my things, I know that these guys in drill are more likely to stay in their neighborhood than because of the way the genre works than any other rapper. My point is that there's a danger in where you need to leave in hip hop, and I'm even more concerned with drill because they're even more likely than anyone else to stay, and they're even more likely to have problems in the hood. You know, when Nori was home and he left, Nori was a star in his neighborhood. Nas was loved in Queensbridge. You know, Mobb Deep was loved. They still left anyway. These guys are loved on their block, 2 blocks away. They're hated. So I'm even more alarmed because of all of that.
Well, I mean, Nas and them with love for their artistry. These dudes is their fame and thing is for the work that they putting in.
No, no,
Yep.
absolutely,
Yep.
absolutely. But the community knew that you touch Nas, you got a problem. You touch
And
somebody now,
see those
you might get
those
rewarded. You
that,
might
I'm
get
about to say,
loved.
see that's a different, and there right there is the difference. You know, we could take it
Yep.
all the way back. I tell people I remember growing up in East New York in pink houses, and people like, wow, I'm like, yo, this is pink houses before crack. But once once the hood knew that I was accepted to Howard University, even before, but especially once they knew that I was accepted to Howard University, for them it was like, yo, we're making sure that you get there because you going is a
Yes.
victory for us
For all of
all.
us. Yeah.
So the Nas's, like when you watch that Illmatic documentary, like yo, that photo shoot on the bench, like yo, this is for all of us. I know
Yeah.
I ain't talking about getting points on the record, but for me to be able to travel the city and say, yo, I'm from Queensbridge, like Nas,
Yeah.
that meant something. And
Yeah.
now it's different. You
And
know,
I'm sure there was an OG in the pink houses that if he would have saw you doing something stupid,
Oh,
would
man,
have pulled
oh,
up
the-
on you and said, "Yo, Tim,
Yo.
I think you need to go home."
I had many a times where I was told to go upstairs before curfew, but they only had to tell me once. Like I wasn't
You were
wasn't
smart
trying
enough
to
to get it.
I wasn't trying to front on them and be like, yo,
Yeah.
you ain't my bigger brother. It was
Yeah.
like, oh, bet.
Yeah,
And
that's
then
like
I'd come out the next day and then hear about what happened.
what happened.
So then when somebody comes through and they want a question, I legitimately could be like, well, I don't know what you're talking about. I was in the house.
Yeah, bro, you ain't got to tell me twice. Me and
So-
Michelle were in Brazil, and we're walking around in the neighborhood, and it was like 4 o'clock. Sun went down like 6, and a cop walked up to us and was like, "You guys want to get out of here before sunset?" Okay,
Yeah.
I'm not
It's
waiting
like-
till 6, honey. It's 4 o'clock. We're leaving at 4:10. We're
You know,
walking back
just
to
like-
the car.
Just like that night when Kev knocked on my window. It's like, dog, what are you doing? Like, you got to get in here. We got to get in that car quick. Like, because they just don't know.
They don't know you, bro.
Yeah, back in the so I had a kid. I'm gonna give you the opposite story. So had a student years ago. He was they decided they were gonna go fight. So they go to another block to fight because they knew like if they fought on the block, I was gonna get them. So they go a couple of blocks away to go fight. They on this block, drug dealers are there, and they was like, y'all get off the block. Like it was a kid and a whole bunch, after school, a whole bunch of kids follow the two kids that want to fight. They're like, yo, get off the block. It's like, yo, you making it hot. They ignored the drug dealers. Like, yo, get off the block. Dude pulled out a gun, let off a shot in the air, so they all ran. The kids now scared to death. He didn't have any money. An older woman puts him in a cab, comes home. He comes in the next day, and he's telling me the story. He's like, yo, they were shooting at me, was the initial report I got. Then he told me the story. I was like, why didn't you get off the block? They told you to get off the block. And that is the difference.
Yeah.
Yep.
What did he say? What was his response?
We didn't think they was gonna do nothing.
Yeah. Nah, when the big homie tell you to bounce, you bounce.
But yeah.
But for a lot of these young people, the big homies are no longer there.
Absolutely.
They are the big homies. Yeah.
Which is
don't mean anything the way they used
yeah,
to. Yeah,
which is like the big homie on your block can't be 23.
Yeah. No, exactly.
That is
true. But there's a lot of work to do.
You can't get info from the medium homie, right, Tim?
Yeah. Like no, like you gotta earn some stripes. Like somebody gotta be like, yo, I know your peoples, but you gotta be old enough to say that peoples with an S. Like
the medium homie told me what to do, but I didn't want to listen.
Yeah, like so.
We don't have a big homie. We only got a medium homie on my block.
Yeah.
All right. Well said, fella. I know we got a little passionate on that one. We've probably lost track of our recording and just going at it, but it was good times. But before we roll up out of here, anybody want to get into? We're gonna get into the Robinson report. Talk about the things that are giving us life.
Yeah, we need some life.
Yes.
What is giving you life? Anybody want to go first?
I'll jump in. It was Arrested Development. Kev, I always think about you because you put me on to Arrested Development. But since you put me on, I actually have met and kind of developed a relationship with the Big Brother Speech. So salute to Arrested Development. The album dropped yesterday for the FKN Love. You can interpret that how you choose. But a full album.
Wait. I'm sorry. Say that again.
The name of the album is For the FKN Love.
Oh,
gotcha.
So, like I said, you can process that how you choose. But it got Kane on here. Salute to the young brother D1 that's on here. So right now, that album is giving me life, and it's on all major platforms, but it's also on Bandcamp as well. So check it out.
That's what's up. Speech. I don't know if you remember Jimmy from Howard, was Speech's friend.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
DJ. He DJ for them for.
No, that's Kevin. That's Kevin. The DJs for him. Yeah.
No. Yeah. I'm bugging, Kevin.
Yeah. I just remember that you was repping them hard, and I was a little too Brooklyn at that time. but I have since expanded and grown. So salute to Arrested Development on social media. They're called AD the Band.
Nice.
But definitely
and my apologies
check that
to
out.
Kevin. I mean, I went to the guy only made mixtapes for me, and in Meridian. I'm sorry, Kev. I didn't mean to do you that way.
Yeah, Kev has blessed me in some great ways back in the day, but that's a story that's not going to be recorded.
he talking about his slow jam tapes too.
Hey.
Oh man.
Anyway,
I think we all had a moments in love 30-minute on one side. Then you get the joint that flips over.
Or all four versions, yeah, man.
Yeah.
You had to have all four versions of moments.
Yeah, that is not part of the Robinson report. How do we go from everyday people to
how do we go from what's giving us life to making life?
Wow. Way to go.
Whoa.
Way to go.
Foul on the play.
The opinions expressed by Reggie Jacks does not automatically reflect the opinions of my Mike Sounds Nice.
No doubt.
All right. So
Moving on.
Move- move- move-
I'll save Kevin before he gets us canceled. We're like, we gotta cancel ourselves.
Yeah.
Anyway, I am the documentary man, but
Yes.
the thing for us is what's giving us life.
Yes.
Docs give me life. So, Alex Gibney, who is one of the best documentary guys out there, and you guys all know his voice. You've all watched his documentaries. You just don't know it. Has a new one called The Forever Prisoner, and it's about Abdul Zabadiah, whatever his name is, the prisoner in not Abu Ghraib, in what do you call that, in Cuba, and he's been in Guantanamo for whatever they call it, forever prisoner, because he has no court date. No one's gonna trying to let him out, and it's a really 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 powerful documentary about torture mainly, and the torture work with when the CIA actually first captured him. So they tell a story of how he was first captured, when he was injured, what the FBI did, what the CIA did, the differences between the two, and if you really want to get into whether or not America tortured and how they tortured or enhanced interrogation, this documentary really does a deep dive. Really, really interesting. One of those things I put on, and 2 hours later, I was like, "Wow, I didn't even plan on watching this. It's really good." And for part B, real quick, HBO has Life of Crime, which is Kev's laughing because he knows it's about three people in Newark, New Jersey, who used to commit crimes, and this new documentary picks up on their lives. And the documentary was a late '80s, early '90s film with a lot of funny stuff in it, but really, exposes the criminality during the crack era, petty crime mostly. But they pick up on the three people and what's going on in their lives from 1984 to 2020. So that's a good one also.
I definitely need to check that out. I was a fan of that one.
Yeah, the first one is classic material.
Yeah, no doubt. All right.
Reggie Jacks, what say you?
What's giving me life? I have a brain that I can't stop. I won't I always have to be busy. I find it difficult to just shut off. I always find like there's something I could do. I'm watching TV, I'm reading articles, I'm doing all these things. So the thing that is now giving me life is the Calm app.
I was about to say you need meditation.
Meditation. So that's what's giving me life, the Calm app. So I use the Calm app. There's different types of meditations. If you're new to meditation, it kind of helps walk you through some early meditations. There's a free version, but then you can purchase something online. You can purchase it for a year. And I use
They
that
have meditations
nightly.
on there or just sounds?
Meditations. They'll walk you through different meditations and things. And, there's different discounts, company discounts and all types of things. You might be a member of something, but you get discounts. But the Calm app is definitely something that helps give me life, helps me turn off my mind for a moment.
Cool.
That's what's up.
I think this was a good one, fellas. I really enjoyed the conversation. Apologize if I got a little happy or excited in our convo, but those are the conversations I enjoy having with y'all the most.
Nah, I think it's good for people to see how we really get down.
Yeah, no doubt.
Oh, another great show in the can, my brothers.
Yep.
So as we sign off once again, we got one more show coming for 2021. So this is not our final show. Our next show will be our end of 2021 as we head into 2022. So this is Tim signing off for my Mike Sounds Nice. Enjoy the holiday season.
This is Kevin from my Mike Sounds Nice.
This is A from a Mike Sounds Nice saying, enjoy your days coming up to Christmas, not just Christmas Day, but the days coming up, and stay safe and healthy out there. My niece
And
caught COVID, so I'm speaking from experience.
And yo, for all of our educators out there, yo, grab the Calm app. take some time off, but please come
There's
back.
definitely discounts for educators.
There's already shortages in the classroom, so But if you're led to find a new career over the break, do you? But get the Calm app, bring some type of calm to it, and shout out.
No doubt. Peace.
Peace.